Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Yerushalmi, Meiser Sheni, Perek Beis, Halacha Gimel, and Halacha Dalit, which is the final halacha of this Perek. We're learning today Daf Chaf, and we left off on Daf Chaf, Amud Aleph, 3 lines from the top of the Amud. Now let's quickly recap. We started to quote the Machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish in the opinion of Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai says in the Mishnah, in Halacha Gimel, and I'm quoting, Lo yaseh adam esolov din rei zahav, that when a person has silver coins that are imbued with the sanctity of Meiser Sheni, because a person redeemed the produce, the original produce, on those, let's say, silver saloyim. And just for the record, as we'll see today, Sela is one denomination. It can be any silver coin, as we will see. So Beis Shammai says, outside Yerushalayim, you're not allowed to go from silver to gold. And just to repeat, Bekitzer, that this amazing sugya that we learned yesterday, that's speaking about when it comes to 2 different types of coins, one relative to the other will be considered ma'os, the other one will be considered schayra. Everything that we learned yesterday is only l'shitas Beis Hillel. But again, Beis Shammai holds that you're not allowed to go from silver to gold. So in the opinion of Beis Shammai, we have a machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan holds that when does Beis Shammai say you're not allowed to go to gold? That's if you are beginning with silver coins. However, if a person who has produce of Meiser Sheni, who has the biblical right to redeem it onto money, wants to lechatchila, wants to at the outset put it on golden coins, then of course Beis Shammai will hold that one is allowed to do so, right? The Torah says that you can redeem the produce onto money. Gold is considered money, even though it's not commonly used as currency. Aber, that was yesterday. So, and Beis Shammai only limits going from the silver coins to the golden coins, and the limud was that when it says v'novitzarto hakesef, as we explained, that once it hits silver, that is the silver that you have to take to Yerushalayim, kesef rishoin v'loy kesef sheni. Don't go from money to money. From copper to gold. Why could you go from copper to gold? Because even though copper is also coins, but it's not as significant as silver. And when the Torah says that you first money and not the second money, it's only kesef money. If it was nechoshes money, you could go from copper to silver. That is where we left off. That is the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan. Reish Lakish has a different understanding in the opinion of Beis Shammai. Reish Lakish understands that Beis Shammai holds that you may never redeem produce of Meiser Sheni onto golden coins. I don't care if it's from silver coins to golden coins, copper coins to golden coins, or from the original produce onto golden coins. That will be the shita of Reish Lakish, and as we will see, the Gemara will do what I did yesterday. According to that understanding, what would be the source of Beis Shammai, and Reish Lakish will explain the source. We're going to make a suggestion, something that we did very often in the Bavli. This is based on the teachings of the Rebbe, that Bechlal, when it comes to Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan represents the tzaddik because he was a tzaddik. Reish Lakish represents a Baal Tshuva because he was a Baal Tshuva. And we're going to figure out how we can perhaps connect it to this whole sugya regarding silver and gold. Just as a rule, we spoke this out yesterday, that silver is a representation of Ahavas Hashem in the holy tongue. Kesef, nichsoif, nichsafti, represents a yearning desire to get close to God, which is one of the movements, this yearning of getting close, that is a result of the feeling, the midah of Ahava, versus gold, that normally represents Yira. Yira doesn't motivate a movement of getting closer. Generally, the feeling of awe, all right, generates or motivates a movement of bittul, of subservience, of humility, v'chulei, as we'll make that suggestion. That is going to be the Gemara today up until Halacha Daled. Now, the rest of the daf today will be learning the Mishnah. It's going to be a fascinating Mishnah. The Mishnah is going to continue to speak about transferring sanctity of Meiser Sheni coins onto other coins. We will start the Mishnah speaking about copper coins to silver coins. Everything that we learned until now leads us to understand that you are allowed to go from copper coins to silver coins outside Yerushalmi, and the purpose will be is because the whole reason why you went from produce into coins is because you want to lighten the burden, right? That same logic should allow a person, as it does, to go from copper coins onto silver coins, because many copper coins will have the same value of much fewer silver coins. So it's going to be easier for you to transport that money because it's smaller amount of weight, lighter weight. You're lightening the burden. Actually, we're going to get into the correct numbers. I don't know why I said yesterday or 2 days ago, like silver copper coins to one silver sella. It's 768 copper prutois are needed. 768 to put together one silver sella. We're going to have first a machlekes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, in which the way the Mishnah represents their argument, Beis Hillel will be the one that's machmer. It's going to be fascinating. And the Mishnah is going to go on from there to speak a little bit about the silver onto silver. We already learned, right, that even midoichak, you don't go from silver to silver, but the Mishnah will be speaking about a unique scenario where you have a small silver coin and original produce. Let's just say you have a half a dinner of a silver coin, a half a dinner. You have produce worth a half a dinner. You have one silver dinner. Even though we don't go from silver to silver, there'll be a machlekes tanoim whether maybe you will be allowed to take the sanctity both of the produce and of the silver coin and put it on the new silver coin. I need to take a picture of Aviv's eyes when he's thinking without the coffee. So 1 second. So that's that. And then that will be then the next shtickle of the Mishnah, which will be the final part of the Mishnah, in which we're going to have a machlokes so rare between Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel, the Chachamim that are donim, Lifnei Chachamim, Rabbi Akiva, Rab Tarfon, Shammai, like many opinions in Yerushalmi Mir HaKodesh itself. When you have the silver coin and you want to exchange it for copper coins, why would you want to do it? Because you're using the money to buy food. Silver coin, like we just said, one silver sella represents 768 copper prutas. If you want to buy an ice cream, let's assume an ice cream is 3 prutas. People don't go to these stores with a big coin. Like even the $100 bill doesn't represent it properly, because $100 bills is only $100. We're speaking about a silver sella, which was a common coin, is 768 prutas. So people would want to go to a money exchanger to exchange the silver sella onto prutalach to have a small change to buy small food. We're going to see many opinions about how this could be done and how this perhaps may not be allowed to be done. And we'll leave it at that. Let's dive inside. This week was mamash fascinating. So Daf Chaf, Amud Aleph, 3 lines from the top of the Amud. So right back. Beis Shammai, who says the words, Loy yase adam esalo of dinrei zahav. You're not allowed to turn your saloyim, means the silver coins, onto golden dinarim. So yesterday we learned Rabbi Yochanan says that Beis Shammai's words are limited to exactly the words that they said. That if you already deconsecrated the produce onto silver coins, that means you already have silver coins imbued with Kedushas Ma'aser Sheni, even though putting it onto gold will help you lighten your burden. But nevertheless, you're not allowed to do that. Once you have coin silver, you can't go from silver to gold. But if you are beginning with your produce, and you're making this executive decision, you're not going to schlep, you're not going to carry up your produce, you want to redeem it onto money. If you want to lechatchila redeem it onto a golden coin, if that's its value, then of course, even Beis Shammai will say you are allowed to do it. So says Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish says, no, that bein batchila, bein basoif, Beis Shammai pligin. Beis Shammai, who argues with Beis Hillel is mater to go from silver to gold. When Beis Shammai says that it's usur, they don't only mean it's prohibited to go to gold if you are starting out with silver coins. Yes, that's true. If you have silver coins, you may not redeem it onto golden coins. But they're saying more. Even if you have produce, and you have a lot of produce, and this produce that you have is worth a golden dinar, and you have the golden dinar, you're not allowed to deconsecrate it on gold, even though it's a coin. Never allowed to go to gold. Why? Now, according to the Shlakish's understanding, my Talmud de Beis Shammai, what would be the reason behind that? So here again, we have different girsois. We're following really, as we did yesterday, as we're doing right now, we are following the version of the Gra. which is simply the easiest to learn. So kesef v'loy zahav. Again, the pasuk reads v'nosato ba kesef, and then v'tzarto ha kesef b'yotcha. So the extra kesef, right? It could have says v'nosato ba kesef means you redeem it onto kesef. Kesef can mean silver. Kesef can mean geld. It's not clear, but when the Torah repeats and you should bind the kesef in your hand, there, that word, that extra kesef is to teach you that it defines what type of kesef can you vinosata it on only on silver and not on gold. Now we got a problem. What's the problem? That silver, if the word kesef doesn't only mean money, kesef means silver money. Well, just like silver excludes gold, l'chu'ura, silver excludes copper. If you, Reish Lakish, are right, then should it not be that just like Beis Shammai explicitly says you may not deconsecrate the produce onto gold coins, kesef and not zav, you should not be allowed to deconsecrate the produce onto copper. And we know that Beis Shammai holds that you could. How do we know that Beis Shammai holds that you are allowed to deconsecrate the original produce onto copper? From the next Mishnah, just like it was quoted yesterday, it's going to be quoted now, and then we're going to learn the Mishnah. Well, kesef is an exclusionary word, and it comes to define the type of metal used in the money, not just money, but silver money, which was the most commonly used money. So why don't we say kesef v'lo nechoshes? And don't tell me Beis Shammai Taka holds that you're not allowed to redeem it on copper coins. We know from Beis Shammai, not explicitly, but implicitly, that you are allowed to. Where do we know that from? From the next Mishnah, V'hatanina. Well, again, the Mishnah is going to speak about many dinim, but the opening case of Halacha Daled is Hapoirat Sela Mima'ois Ma'aser Sheni, one who wishes to exchange. Ma'ois is prutois, ma'ois is copper. If a person wants to, person who has copper Ma'aser Sheni coins, and they want to put it onto silver, so we have a machlokes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. I know the words we quoted yesterday, bakoil hasela mois. I'm going to leave this for a couple of minutes because we're going to see how to learn pshat correctly when we read the Mishnah. So it's not even important to know how you do it. The fact that we are addressing a case where someone has copper prutois that have in it sanctity of Ma'aser Sheni means. And Beis Shammai tells you how to go from silver to copper, how to go from copper to silver. That means you have the copper. And Vesavrin on Meimar Keina Masnisa, and the right way of learning the Mishnah is, even though the Mishnah doesn't say the words explicitly, and what we are saying now will stand, that Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, they are referring to Hamitzaref. Hamitzaref means one who wishes to gather the copper coins. Like we mentioned, 768 copper coins are equal to one silver sela. Hamitzaref, sela, if you want to combine onto a sela, the sanctity, ma'ois is copper. Mi ma'ois Ma'aser Sheni. Beis Shammai says that you can do it. Beis Shammai says you can take the entire 768 and put it onto one silver sela. You would think, duh, why not? We'll see. Beis Hillel disagrees with that, as we'll see soon. Point is, we see from the Mishnah that Beis Shammai holds that you are allowed to go from the produce onto copper. Why? If you are learning kesef to mean the type of metal used in the money, then you should not be allowed to. So let's go back. What will be the reason of Beis Shammai? And again, our version, the version of the Gra is that the Reish Lakish will tell you, I gave you the right reason. I'm not retracting my reason. When the Torah says V'tzarto ha-kesef, the kesef comes to exclude the metal of gold, the material of gold. Why don't we say equally silver and not copper? So Reish Lakish says a svara. And here's the logic, guys. The most commonly circulated metal used for money in the times of Chazal, which is probably from the beginning of times until when they came out with the paper worthless bill, silver. Silver was oiver lasoiche. But that will be a big theme of the whole daf today. Silver represents 768 prutas. Prior to inflation, when you're living in a normal world, many items, especially food items, staple items that have to remain very affordable for societies to function. Food items, probably was worth 2 prutas, 3 prutas. So there was a need, just like you have the dollars and the pennies. Every currency has it. Dollars, and you have coins here in America, and not only here, all around the world. You have a dollar bill, but then you have quarters and you have nickels. People needed that. I don't know if they need it anymore. So nechoishes is taken not as chashuv as silver, but it was also needed. People used to buy stuff with copper. It was common. You went to the store, you had in your pocket, you have in your pocket today $100 bill, and you have 520s. Yesh v'yesh. That will be unfortunately today, or the way it just was a couple of years ago. You have $1 and you have a couple of coins. So you go to the meter, you put a coin in, you have coins. Gold, yes, they made golden coins. Like today, you have golden coins. That's considered a different category. Copper is not as much as silver, but copper and silver are a shidduch. That's a logic, because people did use copper. Gold was rarely used. Normally gold, the concept of holding, of tzimtzum, gold, like circulation, money was made to circulate. That's why the money comes into our pockets. We all know that. And it goes out before it comes in. It circulates away from you. Gold is meant to circulate to you. Gold is not meant to spend. When you get hold of a golden coin, you hold on to it. So the Shlakish says, misvara, yes, kesef is to exclude the metal. Why are we not equally excluding gold and copper? Because kesef, he nechoishes. I know that the copper is not silver, but copper was needed when people spend money. You need to have silver, you need to have copper. No one needs to have gold. As spending money is concerned, when you're going to Yerushalmi to buy food, I know it's easier. You lighten the burden with gold. People didn't spend golden coins. So the Shlakish stands his ground. Now, I want to just, you have a lot. Correct.
Traveling from far away. Why not?
Amazing that Vlad identifies with Beis Hillel. Nothing wrong with that, even though you're a redhead, but you're still good. Beis Hillel, I'm with you. Beis Hillel, there's no answer to what you're saying. You're saying that you are aligned with Beis Hillel. You don't have to align with Beis Shammai. You understand what Beis Shammai is saying. Now, let me go with a deeper premise, and if it works and if it doesn't work. Again, the Shlakish is the Baal Tshuva. And let's use very simple. Gold is rare. A tzaddik is rare. For the world of Rabbi Yechanan, yeah, gold. Gold was still a currency. Gold is something in the world of Rabbi Yechanan, there's gold. If gold were to represent avoid of a tzaddik, it's very, very precious, very rare. Even though be'emes, in Chassidus, we learned that the Baal Tshuva is much greater than the tzaddik. But I'm saying every one of us is a Baal Tshuva. That's we are all at. We are going from pre-Baal Tshuva to becoming a Baal Tshuva, to go back to being not yet a Baal Tshuva, to going back. That's our cycle. We are cycling between Baal Tshuva and not yet Baal Tshuva. That's the Oiver Lasoicher. In other words, it would make sense that Reish Lakish doesn't deal with gold, excludes gold. It's not in his universe, gold. It's not in our universe, the tzaddik. We're not shaykh to the tzaddik. Learn Tanya. It's a different type of avodah. Could be. All right, let's go weiter. So let's go. Halacha Dalet. The final Mishnah in this chapter. So we already quoted so many times, right? Even 2 days ago in Halacha Gimel. There we went from silver to copper to silver. But from copper to silver, you can go. And here Vlad will be happy because you are lightening the burden. Okay, so l'chayda, from everything we learned until now, let's put it in practice. If I have my 768 copper prutas, I accumulated it over time. Every time I separated my sasheni, I deconsecrated it on copper coins. I don't have this huge field. I'm a stama person. I'm an average guy. I have a small, normal field, not this humongous double field. Okay, but at some point, I accumulated 768. I want to put it onto silver. So you would say, of course. We'll see, Beis Hillel is machmer. You can't do that. And let's read it inside. We already learned that the pshat is which is the way we're learning our Mishnah. I have copper coins, and prior to going to Yerushalmi, instead of putting in my pocket 768 copper coins, I want to go to a money exchanger and exchange it for a silver sella, which has its same value. So Beis Shammai says, gesund heit. That's in Yiddish. And his words are, Beis Shammai yoimrim, bechol hasela mo'ois. The entire exchange all of your copper onto the sela. Use the entire sela to represent, to absorb the kedusha from the copper. Fine, do that. Beis Hillel, let me say Beis Hillel by heart. In reality, when you're going to be in Yerushalmi and you're going to go buy food with your sela, if you're going to exchange it all on a sela, when you go into stores that sell small food items, the currency that's used practically is not sela. Today you have credit cards. Today it's a non-issue. There you needed the actual money. You needed prutas. If everyone would be allowed to exchange their prutas onto silver, because of the fact that it substantially lightens the burden, it's not 6-1. I don't know where that came from. 760, yeah, Meshuggah, that's a lot. Everyone is going to go there only with silver. So you're going to go to Yerushalayim. The first thing people will do is they're going to go to money exchangers, they go to the banks, and they're going to put it onto copper coins. You know what's going to happen? Leave it to the Yerushalmis. Whenever there is a tremendous need for copper coins, so the exchange fee will go up. Yakir already knew that. Of course, it goes up. Copper will become more expensive. And we don't want for that to happen. We want that when people go to Yerushalayim, they already come with the type of coinage that they will be using for them not to fluctuate the market of copper. So what? So Beis Hillel says you can't exchange it? No, you could exchange it. But he puts it to a 50%. That means if I have 768, well, lots of brains are spinning. What's 50% of that? What's half of that? 384. Why do I know? Not because I took a calculator yesterday and I wrote it into my Gemara. I'm being honest. That's how I know. Vlad almost got there. I didn't let him speak out the sentence. So Beis Hillel Aimrim, nisht. Now another detail. We keep on learning it. I guess we don't forget it. One sela is comprised of either 2 shkolim. In other words, a shekel represents a half a sela, or the same, also silver, and one sela has in it 4 dinarim of silver. Now, there are golden dinarim, which are much more very good. I'm just to get the words. So Beis Hillel says, okay, fine. If you have 768 prutalach and you have a sela, you know what you do? B'shekel kesef or b'shekel mois. Mois means copper. We'll get used to this. So what you do is you leave half. Shekel is a half of a sela. Now, Beis Hillel's statement could be and should be understood in 2 ways, technically 2 ways. Either don't go to a silver shekel. Don't go to a silver sela. Go to a silver shekel. No, it's take 384 prutalach and say, you have to verbalize it. The sanctity of these prutas go over to the shekel. And then you are going to go to Yerushalayim in your pocket with 384 prutas. So when you get there, you already have prutas. There's more prutas being brought to Yerushalayim for circulation. What happens if I don't have a silver shekel? It doesn't matter. Listen to these words. This is important. According to Beis Hillel, according to everyone, if you want, I can take a silver sela. I take 384 prutas. And I say, may the kedusha of these 384, which has the value of half of the sela, go out of the prutas, go into the silver, go into half of its value. This silver sela will be half holy, half not. And this is important. I don't need to know which half. That's 100% okay. So first of all, when I'm going to go to Yerushalayim, I'm going to go with the 384 prutas. And I'm going to go with this sela because this sela has in it Kedusha's Ma'aser Sheni. When I go to Yerushalayim, I have an option. What's my option? Don't forget, guys, produce that I buy with Ma'os Ma'aser Sheni has to be consumed in Yerushalayim. I will have the right, we'll see cases in the Mishnah, to go ahead and to buy 2 bananas with it. And for me to say, the banana to the right is coming from the holy part of the silver coin, B'meila, it will be imbued with the Kiddush. The banana to the left is coming from the unholy part. And that will be the banana that I can take, say, the Laderech when I leave Yerushalayim. I'm allowed to put the Kiddush into half of the value of the coin. It's an interesting
question. Why not let the market dictate the exchange rate? And let the Yerushalmis who are always poor make some money. You have your comfort during your travel time. The market dictates. the way everything is done.
So the best answer that I had, because you asked me this yesterday, and I didn't find it explicitly, Kevan, when you have to pay an exchange fee, there's always an exchange fee. I want to know, I'm not certain, does it come out of your pocket, or does it come out of the Meiser Sheni money?
Right.
Because, Kevan, if it comes out of the Meiser Sheni money, that will be the answer to your question. In other words, if the exchange fee will go up because you're getting copper, the guy charges more. If you're using the Meiser Sheni for the exchange fee, then less Meiser Sheni will be used for produce. Now, if the exchange fee is coming out of pocket, then Kevan, you have a good kasha. Like, who cares? If someone says, I would, for the convenience of not having to schlep 384 prutas, I'm going to put it onto silver. It's going to cost me another $10 surcharge. I'll pay it. Then I don't know the answer to your question, but I'm not certain where does the exchange fee come from. I don't know that yet. Maybe we learned it in the Rambam and we forgot, or maybe we're going to get to it. Okay, so first of all, that's a fascinating machlokes. Normally Beis Shammai is the machmer. I'm sure there are applications of the same machlokes in which it's going to come out the opposite and who's the machmer, who's the mekel. Because in the Mishnah in Idiois, this Mishnah is not counted from the Chumrei Beis Hillel umikule Beis Shammai, but let's leave it at that. Now, next topic of the Mishnah. Based on what we learned already in the Gemara, an implication from Halacha Gimel that silver to copper is allowed to be done midoichak, which was that case where you have a silver chulin coin and a silver Meiser Sheni coin got mixed up outside Yerushalmi, as we learned in the previous Mishnah. And from that, we extrapolated that from silver to silver, not even midoichak. B'di'evet, if you did it, that was Rabbi Yochanan yesterday. But you can't do that. So we already know you can't go from silver to silver. And that would also mean a smaller silver coin. Let's go. You asked shekel. In other words, if I have 2 shkalim of silver, and I can tell them, like, why would you go from silver to silver? That's the answer. And I'm going, why should I carry 2 coins if I can put it onto 1 cell of silver? So the rule is that you don't go from silver to silver. The Mishnah will give a scenario where maybe machlokes tanoim whether you could. What will be the case of the Mishnah? Now, every step is important. Number 1, whatever you have is less than a dinar. What is the whatever that I am talking about? If a person has both, let's just say, a silver coin that's smaller than a dinar. Let's say a half a dinar. If there was a silver coin and a half a dinar. Half a dinar. Guys, a dinar is a fourth of a seller, just to get that. And I have produce, original produce of Meiser Sheni, worth half of a dinar. So together, I have a dinar. Half. And I have a silver dinar. So here, my question is, I'm allowed to go from produce onto silver. Vadai, that's clearly what the Torah says. V'tzarta hakesev, v'nosata bakesev, v'nosata bakosev. We just finished learning that. Are we allowed to say that, yeah, I can go from silver coin to a silver coin, but if I have produce and a silver coin, can I look at the silver coin as bottle to the produce? Since I can go from the produce to the silver, maybe I can include in it a smaller silver coin. Let's read it inside. Rav Meir says, Ein mechalalin kesef upedes al kesef. That you may not do what I just gave in the case that we just explained. And again, what's the case that we explained? And every step is meduyak. Look inside the top marafulda. Ein mechalal in kesef upedes ala kesef. Mi sheyesh li chatzi dinar. That will be the case. Chatzi dinar doesn't mean half. It means less than a dinar. As we'll see, God willing, in the next year in the Gemara. Chatzi dinar doesn't mean half. It can mean 3/4. It means if you don't have a dinar, but let's use this as an example. You have a half a dinar of a coin. The coin was already used. It's already holy. Shol Meiser. And you have also new original produce of Meiser Sheni, also worth a half a dinar. That means you have the total worth of a dinar. And I have a silver dinar coin that was never used yet, chulin. So Rav Meir says, Lo yitztarfem yachad, you cannot combine the half a dinar of kesef and the half a dinar of original produce, can combine them and then exchange it on, be poide it on a dinar of silver. Why not? Because you can never go from silver to silver. Pshita, the Chachamim say you are allowed to. Why does the Chachamim say you are allowed to? Because since the coin that you have, these are the words, the coin, huh? Yeah, to be mechalal, to deconsecrate. That since the amount, the value of the coin that I already have kadosh with Ma'aser Sheni is less than a dinar, as a rule, anything less than a dinar is not significant. I don't know how we would apply it today here in LA with the cost of living, but people get that. There's a certain, how are they getting away with charging for a coffee in Starbucks with the $20 or $10? They get away because psychologically they understand in the society, that amount of money is not significant. Once a person views what they have not significant, it's easier to steal it from them.
Called addiction.
Whatever that is. So that objectively, dinner is, you have a dinner. Anything less than a dinner, that's why half a dinner, lav dafka, less than a dinner in Chazal was considered already not significant. So 1 second. So Chachamim hold that since you taka have a silver coin, but since that silver coin is less than a dinar, we could consider the silver coin subsumed, bottled to the produce of the half a dinar. And the Gemara is going to say, even according to the Chachamim, if the produce is worth a dinar or more, they also would not allow you to do it. It's only because the produce in itself is less than a dinar. The coin is less than a dinar. The Chachamim hold that if you take the Kedusha of both onto silver, we do not view it as you going from silver to silver. We don't view it that way. We view it as you going from produce to silver, and you're schlepping along with it a little amount of money, of value. Because it's less than a dinar, and in such a case, you will lechatchila be allowed to go bepoil from silver to silver. Fascinating. Everyone knows that this is touching on something deep. How it works, of human nature, how we combine, how we don't combine. Once everyone is a davar chashuv, they don't even combine together. Here, everyone, and when everyone is humble, there's a whole different amount of bittul. Okay.
And also, one thing, would this be the same thing like what about going to Rabbi Yochanan we had earlier, who said that according to Beis Shammai you can deconsecrate produce onto gold but not exchange for gold?
Yeah.
So what happens if it's a combination of Ma'aser Sheni produce and let's say copper? So can you exchange that for gold?
Could be. Could be.
But you can't bring gold and exchange it in the Yerushalmi.
Yes, you could, as we'll see soon. First of all, even though Reish Lakish says that Beis Shammai says that you can't go from produce to gold, we do not paskin like Beis Shammai. Let me make it very clear. Not only, Vlad, are we allowed to go from produce to gold because we paskin like Beis Hillel, we learned yesterday in the Braisa, the Beis Hillel, according to everyone, that even silver to gold is something that I'm allowed to do. Because silver is considered produce, gold is considered more chashuv. So yes, absolutely, it's shaykh that people, the wealthier people, the people that said that they didn't have their own backyard, they had fields for business, they had a lot of Ma'aser Sheni, they would put it on gold. And we'll see what you do with that. We'll get to that next Mishnah. Hold on, not so simple. Okay, now the final, like I said, it's so many different opinions regarding one topic. I don't know where we have where else in Shas. I think there are 6 opinions in the Mishnah here. 6. Okay. Now, we're going in the opposite direction in Yerushalmi HaKodesh. And the example the Mishnah gives, Vlad, it's going to be the same thing with gold. You're going to see the issue in a moment. You have silver. Okay, we already mentioned. Okay, so Beis Hillel says if you're going from copper to silver, you can only exchange half. So what? But you can exchange half. So let's say if you were to have 2 times 768, Beis Hillel, you can put half of that on a silver seller. In other words, everyone, even if you have restrictions, people came to Yerushalayim with silver soloim that had in it the sanctity of Ma'aser Sheni. What did people do with that in Yerushalmi? We just mentioned. You can go buy something expensive with the seller. If you're buying a behemoth for a carbon, you would come with your saloim, not with your prutalach. But when you're buying your own food to eat, small food items, you're not going to go to a fancy restaurant, but you're going to go again, you're going to buy something to eat, you need prutas. So let's go. So you would think, okay, once you already have your silver saloim in Yerushalayim, what would be the downside for you to exchange it into copper? You would say nothing. If I have a silver cell and I say, okay, well, exchange, I want to have 768 prutas, you would think you can do it. You'll see, not so simple. But let's go. That means you're going in the opposite direction. You have a silver seller that is fully imbued with Kedusha of Ma'aser Sheni. You're coming in Yerushalayim and you want to exchange it aviv to prutas. So Beis Shammai is consistent. Just like Beis Shammai said in the first topic of the Mishnah, that when you are going from copper to silver outside Yerushalayim, he uses the words bakoil, you can exchange all of it into the silver, all of the copper into the silver. Easy come, easy go. Consistent. Ratzei v'shoiv. Beis Shammai yoimrim bechol haselamois. Zum gesund. Like, and why not? Take, if you want. Now, there are other options. What will be the other option we just mentioned? I can take the silver seller and I can ask the money exchanger to give me a silver shekel and the 384 prutas. You can do that, but you don't have to do that. If you want, you're not bound, you're not limited. You want to put everything into coins? Zum gesund. And what would be the downside? So let me speak out the downside by heart. The downside is like this. Gold, we already mentioned. Gold is forever. Not diamonds is forever, those De Beers. No, gold does not oxidize. Gold does not corrode. It's amazing. Gold stays the way it is. Silver, I know this, silver oxidizes, but nothing like copper. Ein a doima silver to copper. What's the problem with oxidation? That oxidation is a step before corrosion. Corrodes, which means if I'm going to have a lot of copper prutas, again, it's a lot. It could be that some people will use it all in their current stay. It could be. It could be that I won't be in Yerushalayim long enough to use up all of my copper. Now, if I won't be there to use up all of my copper, I'm not going to use up all of my silver. It's the same value. I know that. But in the long run, Chazal, according to Beis Hillel, prefer for me to keep the sanctity in silver. It corrodes much slower versus keeping the Kedusha in copper coins, whether I'm going to leave the copper coins in Yerushalayim, whether I'm going to schlep them back home and take them back next time. By the time I'm going to be using it again, the copper will lose more value than the silver. So they also limit it. Question is, to what point do they limit it? And there's going to be so many different opinions. First, the concept is understood. It's understood. It's amazing. In both directions, Beis Hillel has restrictions.
So in the case of Kesef and Nefashis, they're literally the values by weight. Because
The value is not by weight.
well,
Okay, 100%. We learned that yesterday. If you have a devalued coin, a selah yot, all coins, yes, in all coins, the coins were rubbed out. The coins were lesser weight, and they lost some of the value. That's exactly what we spoke about in the beginning of yesterday's share. But let's read it inside. So Beis Hillel, everyone is consistent, which is easier, which is beautiful. That b'shekel kesef u'b'shekel ma'ois. You have a silver seller. You want to break it down into smaller denominations. Of course, you can do it, but do it half at a time. So you go into the money exchanger and you get from your one silver seller, you're going to get 1 silver shekel. And like we mentioned yesterday, right? We mentioned before the 384 prutas. And then if you use up to 384, now I'm curious, when you exchange it again, do you have to go again half and half? Or you can go 384 at a time?
big because you end up splitting it in half. So then
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe the Gemara is going to say, in other words, I don't know if every time you can only exchange half, or the half is only if you're beginning with the seller. If you're beginning with the shekel, next time around, we'll see. Okay. So that's opinion. This is already the second opinion. Now look at the names of how the Mishnah words the next two. These are B'lashon Rabim, that Hadonin Lifnei Chachamim Oimrim. Those who would sit in judgment in front of the Chachamim say, who are those? We're going to see in next year, we are referring to both Shimon ben Azai and to Shimon ben Zoima. Both of them passed away young. Because of their passing away young, the way it worked is that you would first be qualified to be a student in front of the Sanhedrin. And the greater you became, the closer you went. The ones that sat in the front row in front of the Sanhedrin, they were the ones that from there, they joined sides, they joined the Sanhedrin. So they were already sitting in front of the Chachamim, but they never went further. They passed away young. Both Ben Zoyma and Ben Azai, and they don't even have their own name, even though they both were called Shimon, and we'll speak maybe a little bit more next year. So the next opinion is, everyone agrees with Beis Hillel's concept. No one accepts Beis Shammai, who says, if you want, you can exchange. If you want the whole seller on copper, that you cannot do. Beis Hillel says, go half and half. The Donald V'Chachamim say, look, it's a quarter, 3 quarters. B'shloisha dinarim kesef. You're taking a seller. Okay, what are you getting back? You're going to get back 3 quarters, 3 dinarim. 4 dinarim is 1 silver seller. 4 silver dinarim. B'shloisha dinarim kesef, and the final dinar, only 25% are going to be ma'ois. What's 25% from 768? 192. Me, the big mathematician with my calculator. So here you go. So that's what you can buy at a time. 192. Rabbi Kiva Omer. It's now what's underlying this machlekes is beyond me. Maybe they ate a lot less. I don't know. Rabbi Kiva Omer. No, that's already too much. We don't even want you to get 192 prutas. What could you get? Not only are you getting 3 dinarim of kesef. No. Ubeshleisha dinarim kesef ubereviis. Oy gewalt. In other words, a quarter of the dinar's worth of prutas. Really, it's 1/16. The final dinner itself is divided into quarters. Yes. So instead of you getting a quarter of the sela, Vlad, you're getting a quarter of the dinner, which is a 16th of the sela. What's a 16th? Let me just speak out my calculator math. So how many prutas can you buy at a time? Only 48. Shtel sich vor. Shammai says get 768. Beis Hillel says no, only have 384. It's done. Chachamim say no, only 192. You're going now to 48, and we're not done yet. And Rab Tarfon Omer, look how many opinions. Rab Tarfon says no. That he's going to say that you not Vlad, a quarter of a dinar, but you can only buy prutas in the value of 1/5 of a dinar. And there was a coinage called an aspare, arba aspare kesef. In the final dinar should be broken down not into quarters but into asperes. 5 asperes to 1 dinar. 4 of the 5 still has to be silver. So what percent of the original seller could you get into copper coins? A 20th. Not like Rabbi Kiva, a 16th, a 20th. Now, what's a 20th? Now here it gets fun. So I did on my calculator, it came out 38.4. That's already a problem. How did they do the 0.4? The pruta was not dividable. So, gosh, a 20th. In other words, I just want to say one thing. They all hold like Beis Hillel, but they are applying it differently. Very little copper at a time. Either they ate less, or, and now another thing, Kevin, to what you're speaking about, every time you exchange it, you got to pay a fee. So the money exchangers were making a killing. You're constantly going every day and you're exchanging another few prutalach. Guys, let's go up. I know it's late. Let's go on. Now we have a 5th opinion. It's very rare. Guys, don't forget, the Mishnah began quoting Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai oimrim, you can buy the whole thing copper. Shammai himself, later in his life, changed his mind. You know what Shammai said at the end? You may never exchange it for copper coins, period. So what do? I'm buying ice cream. I need to give 2 prutas. I got a seller. What do? You go to your vendors, you give them a seller, and they keep a cheshbon with you. Don't decon. So now, when I got the ice cream, I used up the 2 prutas and leave it there until it's fully consumed. Shammai oimed yanechenu b'chanus. Leave the seller in a store that sells food. Don't get any change. And constantly, v'yoichal keneg, you are gradually going to be eating down. In other words, the seller will become gradually deconsecrated. I would have wanted to finish the Mishnah, but we'll leave it at that. And the Mishnah is going to use this concept. No, Shammai says you're not allowed to get change. Everyone agrees that you may do what we just mentioned. So this opens up a whole new oilam. That when I go with ma'os of Meiser Sheni, I don't need to right away use it up. I can leave it in the store and I can slowly eat from it, which means during that period of time, that coin, like we mentioned before, I don't need the coin to be holy or not holy. I don't need it to be that way. I can have, like we said before in the beginning of the Mishnah with Lebei Hillel, I can have one seller. Part of it is holy. I don't need to know which part. Doesn't matter. Part of it is holy, part of it is not. Once I'm allowing such a mitzias that part of the coin is holy, part of it is not, I, the owner of the coin, get to determine when I want to use it for holy. It's beautiful. And when I want to use it for choil, which will allow, meaning we'll see in next year, we'll begin with what happens if someone has a group, some of them are tummy, some of them are tahir. Tummy people cannot eat Meiser Sheni produce. Perfect. Use a seller and let the tired people take and the tummy people take. And I'm the owner of the selling. The tired people that are taking it from the value of the seller. That's holy. The tummy people are taking it from the part of the seller that's not holy. No, only if it's all holy. But now, according to what Shammai is saying is, let me just go back. What is Shammai saying? I don't get copper. Don't go to copper. Copper erodes. Copper corrodes. Oxidites. It corrodes. What you leave the cell in the store, Aviv, and eat from it. While I'm eating, while I'm slowly deconsecrating it, what's happening to this coin? Some of it is holy, some of it is not. Nothing wrong with that.
But the one that's not holy is the old.
I know that. So what I said will be another case. Let me go to the first case of the Mishnah. Hillel says, take the prutas. Only half of the prutas go in the cellar. What's the other half of the cellar? Not holy. That means I'm going to have a cellar that's half holy, half not holy. I'm the only owner. I can use it to my benefit. I have to keep a scorecard. There's nothing wrong with me owning a coin that's half holy, half not, and I can use it to my benefit. We'll leave that for the next year. I love this week. This week was great.